Hi guys. So it's raining, it's windy, it's nasty out. I thought I would start this color along. I gave you a sneak peek. Look, I bent my page. I'm already at a good start, right? Okay, so this one is from Lana Green. Let me zoom out so you can see the whole picture here. Okay, can you see that? Scooch up a little bit. My post-it note here. Okay. I might need to zoom out just a little more. Okay. Can you see the whole picture? Because I can't see it. Okay. Okay. So, back to what I was saying. This is the color along I'm going to do. It's by Lana Green. It's available on her Etsy store. So you can go there and for a couple dollars, print one off. And it comes in a light version or a darker version of print. Let me see if I have both here. I think I do. There is the darker version. So you can see in the darker version, she has more shading areas for you, which will help you when you're doing your colors if you're not very good or unsure of where to apply some shading. She has graciously put them in there for you. Okay, so I thought I would start with the strawberries and then we'll go to the hair. I don't know how far we're going to get between the strawberries and the hair because, you know, these take a long time. So there will be several parts to this video. And I'm going to add some unique colors into these blends, especially into the hair, to give you some more ideas on what to do with different colors and how to achieve different looks. So there's no reason that nobody can't follow along, whether you're a beginner or you have more advanced skills. I'm going to hopefully make this so that everybody can follow it. Now, I'm going to zoom in here. So here is a list. Let's put this up for a second. If you guys want to take a quick screenshot of potential colors that we're going to use for the strawberries. We may not use them all, but these are my typical colors that I use when I do some of my berries. So for example, for my strawberries, 924, 925, 122, 1001 white, which is in my hand, 923, 1003, 1030, 1099, 922, 918, 118. And for the stem and the leaf, 1089, 912, 1005, 109, 989, and 911. We may not use all of these colors, but these are colors that I have pulled out, and I'm just going to kind of go with the flow on which color I decide that I need for as I'm doing this. So I don't want to nail down the color palette exactly because it can change depending on the berry and where I put some shading and how much shading. Okay, now I printed this on white. I'm going to put this little postie off to the side here. I printed this on white because I figure most people are going to have white. Otherwise, I would have printed it on tone tan paper. So the option is yours, but we're going to do this on white today. Tone papers really give a different look. So I'm going to start with this berry in this corner here. On that would be her left side, but so I'm starting with my white pencil. Now, what I'm going to do with the white pencil is I'm going to put some white into the areas where I think I want to keep a lighter tone. And the reason I do this is when I hit that white area with my red pencil, it's going to feel different. It's going to not feel like the paper. So I'm definitely going to feel it. And I'm doing this to kind of give myself an idea of where I want some uplights to be or some lighter areas like an unripened part of the berry. So I'm going to go in between here where there's some dark shading. And it doesn't have to be a thick, heavy coat. I'm doing a very light coat. I'm not putting a lot of pressure here. because I will come in with different colors. And hopefully you'll be able to see that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, and I know this seems a little weird to some of you guys, but I do it so that I don't bury them when I'm coloring the strawberry. Now, you could do it before, you could do it after. I kind of like to fill them in, and then as I'm coloring in the berry, you'll see that they can get overwhelmed with the different colors. So I like to take my 1003, and I like to fill in my seeds. So I'm just going to go and fill in these little tiny seeds with some of this 1003. You don't have to do heavy or thick. Just put enough color in there that you can see them on the page. It will help you as you're going along in your picture so you don't fill them in. If you're like me and you get in the zone, I tend to go over them on accident and then I lose track of where they are. Now, by all means, it doesn't really matter because it's up to you. I like to follow what the artist has drawn. I don't typically change a picture, whether the artist has done something unique or I think that something should be changed. I don't typically change their drawings. And I know a lot of people out there do, or they'll cover the black lines with white pen to kind of hide it. I don't do that. I shouldn't say I don't, because sometimes I do, but it just depends. For the most part, I don't change the actual image itself. So as you see, I'm just carefully putting this little bit of 1003 over each seed because I want to make sure I don't fill those in with red. Otherwise, like I said, I'm going to have a hard time finding where they are. Okay, there's only 2 on that upper corner. Okay, so the first color I'm going to grab is 122, which is your permanent red in the Prismacolor family. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I like to lay a base coat. I like to plan my attack, so to say. So I put down a light, very light coating of where my colors are going to go. And I don't necessarily put my shading and all that in. I just kind of give it a runabout color. And I'm going to start right here where this darker shading is. And I'm going to go around the seeds with a light coat. I'm not pressing heavy, and I know I have a sharp point, but I'm just working that color just around this portion. And I'm kind of keeping in sync with the shape of the seeds and that shading. If that made any sense to you whatsoever. Because I'm leaving that area up top there where I put a little bit of that white pencil. I'm going to leave that white. I mean, we're going to blend some other colors into it, but for the most part, that's kind of going to be a lighter area. So as you see, I'm just carefully putting in a little bit of color. I am going to bring that down here as well to the bottom. Paying attention to where the seeds are, of course. Because you see how easy it is to fill those seeds in when they're so tiny on the page compared to the big area you're filling in of red. But it helps me to remember anyway. And you don't have to. You can wait till the end to do that. And we will be using a yellow Posca on that. And again, that's optional if you have Posca gel pen or you just want to use pencil. If you do just use pencil, putting the yellow in beforehand is going to help you in the end. Because I guarantee some of that red's going to get into that seeded area. So I'm going to come up here around some of these seeds. Putting a little bit of that red up here. And again, I'm not using heavy pressure. And I know sometimes it's hard to tell on the video if someone's using heavy pressure or medium pressure, light pressure. But the one way you could tell is how long their tip is. Some artists work with very short tips. I'm one that I like a longer tip on my pencil. And these are Prismas. These are the Premiers. So you could tell right away that I'm not using a heavy pressure just with the length of my tip. Because if I was, you know that would snap right off. So I hope I zoomed in good, and I know my hand might be a little bit in the way. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit more. And see, when I'm putting my red in, I can feel where I put that white. Because my pencil hits it, and it feels different than the actual paper. So it's kind of a guide, in a way. But there's some cool tricks I should show you with your white pencils. But you can see I'm just adding this 122 kind of on the overall berry itself. Just because this is such bright white paper. And again, that's going to depend on what you want to work with. You can do tan, you can do white, you could do off-white. I just chose white because I figured that's what the majority of everybody has is white paper at home. I know this would look great on a toned paper, but that's all right. Okay, so I've kind of laid in my 122. Now, my next color I'm going to grab is 927, which is your light peach. Now, right in here, I'm going to go over where I put that white with a little bit of that light peach. A really light layer. I'm not really blending. I'm just kind of, like I said, laying my base color. And also up top here where I left it kind of a paler white, I'm just adding in that light layer. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. What you're doing is giving yourself an idea. So you can tell my strokes are not perfect. Nothing about this is perfect. So my next color I'm going to grab right now is 923. So 923 is when you start kind of laying in your layers a little bit more. Not heavy. I'm still going a light coat, but I'm going to start down here at the bottom. And with the light pressure, I'm going to work my way around each one of these seeds. Hopefully you can see that. You'll see the seeds are kind of disappearing in my red. But that's why that orangey yellow color, it really helps to not lose focus on them. But I'm just going to add a light layer where I want this darker shade of red. I have some crazy show on. You know me, I always got something noisemaker in the background. If it's not Gretel, it's the TV. Okay, and you can see where I put that white, where the red's hitting it. It feels different. So they got that line of shading here, which I'm keeping with that. I'm just following it along. And then I'm going to work this red in. Again, light layer, soft touch. I do not know what I'm watching. Bullfighting? I don't know if you can hear that. I fed little Miss Gretel, so maybe she'll behave. We shall see. It seems like when it rains out, she just wants to sleep. Maybe she gets depressed from the weather. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here a little bit around this edge and some of these seeds and put some of that 923 up here. paying attention to where that light is down below, where we left that portion white. I'm applying that color around the seeds. Not all the way around on all of them, but so now you can kind of see the color. It's filling in a little bit better now on your page, and you should have a little bit smoother, even fill-in, so to say. Not so blotchy, because your base color is never perfect. It's always kind of a weird blotchy light shade. I'm gonna put a little bit more down here. And I think the reason I don't nail down my colors is because you never really know what's going to happen when you start applying the pencil colors. It could end up darker, it could end up lighter. What I have in mind for this, we'll see if it actually comes out. So that's the tricky part. Keeping your color blends how you want them to appear on the page. Okay, so for the most part, that's like the first thing I do. That's my first step. So I'm gonna grab my 1001 just for a couple little spots. That's my salmon color. And what I'm gonna do with this one is right where that red's meeting that white, I'm just gonna add a little bit of that salmon. Just a little for now. I'm just kind of wanting to see what I have. It's a good blending color for the reds. So it kind of gives me a nice little change in color, not so dramatic and sharp. I'm going to put some up here. I'm not filling in that entire white area. And I'm going to do it right around the edge of this area as well. Kind of getting around those individual little seeds. I think salmon doesn't get used enough. It's a great color. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my 122, and I'm going to kind of get a heavier layer going here. Still not pushing hard, but this is going to be a layer on top of a layer, so it should start to stand out off your page a little bit better now. And you should really feel the color underneath versus what it felt like when it was just plain paper. You'll get used to the texture, I guess it's the right word, because you could feel like the grain of the paper when you first put a first coat down. And then as you go along, it starts to feel a little smoother, a little slicker as you're laying more and more colors in. That's why I say when I lay that white in, I can feel with my pencil, because I'm not pushing hard, I could feel where I put that white. It's almost like when you run your finger over something dry and then it hits a damp spot. You can definitely tell. It's the same with the colored pencil. You can definitely feel that change in the paper. So you can see I'm just working that color up. And I did a similar color palette when I did the bookmarks and the strawberries. So that's kind of the color palette I'm using this time. Sometimes I do go darker on my strawberries. It really varies. You see I'm going around these seeds. I don't want to lose my seeds. That sounded funny. Anyway, just want to like how when I concentrate, I go all quiet because I'm thinking. I can't think and function at the same time. I've made that clear. I'm just kidding. It's like I get focused. Bring this 122. You shouldn't be doing heavy or medium pressure yet. You should still be using a very light pressure. Because you don't want to really just go all in if you're going to do the blending. You want to do it lightly and in layers, because that's going to give you the best seamless blend. And of course, depending on the grain of your paper as well. If you have a heavier grain, you'll be able to get more layers. I believe this is 147 that I'm working with right now. This particular paper. I'm just going around the seeds in case you're wondering what I was doing. Kind of where I think some of the shading will be. And it can be really hard to work around them, especially if you're not used to working with sharp points. Okay, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a little more color with the same one. I'm still working with 122. I'm just building it up now. I'll be grabbing my 923 after this. Actually, I might go with 924. We'll see. Forgot that little guy right here. So, yeah, I might grab the 924 instead of the 923. Just for more of the bottom work. Yeah, I think I'm going to grab my 924. I'm going to go down here at the bottom. My tip's kind of blunt, but that's okay, it works. And I'm going to put some of that darker 924 in here. And you probably notice I'm losing my seed contrast, so I may add some more of that orange in over top my seeds, just to make them stand out again. But now you see why I put it in there, because it's so easy to lose them when you're doing this. And although it doesn't really matter if you're going to use a Posca pen, you can just kind of dab them in where you want them anyway. But I like to keep with what the artist has for the most part. Now I'm going to go around this edge here where that shading is. Now we put some of that 1001 in there, right at the edge of the white. So you have that color to mix with a little bit. You shouldn't be mixing fully with it, but just enough to give it a blend where they meet. So you can see I'm just kind of working back and forth, building the layer. I'm going to come up around the edge here. I'm not adding too much of this darker red as of right this minute. But I'm building up those nice rich layers. I'm going to put a little right around here. I kind of am liking it. Now I'm going to bounce back to my 923. Oops, I went out of the line there. Oh well. Nobody's perfect. You can see, even with the light layer I'm adding, the color is starting to really build now. Following that edge there because I went off the line. So easy to do though. Okay. So I'm just kind of mixing and mixing now. And even with all those light layers, you're basically at a medium level of layering right now. Or close to it. You shouldn't be close to burnishing your page, but if you're heavy-handed, you might be. And that's where you could get in trouble when you need to add some shading in. Because if you're burnishing your paper, you're going to have a hard time getting that paper to hold color. So you gotta kind of, I say, plan it out a little bit. Take your time, but don't give up. Even if you messed up already, don't give up. Keep going. So again, I'm just going around those seeds right here with the 923. Working that color a little bit. And remember, this is the lighter end of the reds. I mean, it's not the ultimate light one, but it's one of the lighter. This reminds me more of a Christmassy red. So I'm going to work up this edge. Kind of going around those seeds again. Okay, looking pretty snazzy. Now I'm going to grab my 1001 again. I'm going to go in here a little bit where that really light coating is, and I'm going to add a little of this, a little of the 1001 here. Again, I'm not doing heavy. I'm just going really light, kind of mixing that 1001 with that light coat of red, but it's still a very light layer here. Just moving that color around a little bit. I'm going to go around the top. Kind of go around that seed a little bit. And don't forget your lower area. Go around that edge. Kind of work that color just a little bit with that salmon color. And you should be able to clearly see some of the salmon come into the white there. It looks very cool when you're able to get that blend right. Very neat. Now I'm going to grab my 1003. With the 1003, I'm just going to come up here around the top. Just a smidget. I'm not filling in that entire white area. I'm just using that 1003 a little bit. And I'm going right over that salmon color. Not a lot, just a hair. Just to kind of make it stick out a little bit more for me. Yep, so I'm getting to where I want and what I'm seeing, what I'm liking. So I'm going to grab my 925 and I'm going to come in here at the bottom again. And I'm going to put a little bit more of that 925 down here. And you should really start seeing your color building now. And again, I'm only doing the dark points with this 925. Like where it's going to be darkest on the paper. Put a little up here. Around the seeds just a little bit. Now I'm going to go back to my 122. And I'm going to work these colors together with my 122. Giving a little bit more of a blend as I'm going along here. So I'm kind of working all those colors together now. Trying to pay attention to where those seeds are, but as you can tell, it's harder and harder to see now. That's why I like to put that yellow in there. Sometimes I use green. It just depends on how ripe I make the berry. So I'm bringing that 122 up. And you can see I'm really working that color, trying to move it around and manipulate it on the paper. And that's, you should be able to feel that with your pencil too. You should really be able to feel the color kind of move along as you're blending. I know that sounds weird, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's more slick feeling under your pencil tip. Of course, it's hard to see where those doggone seeds are. And I'm following that line. I'm trying to stay out of the hair. Although if you get a little red in the hair, it's going to be okay because we're going to do brown hair. So if you get a little red in there, it will blend. I would say don't do it on purpose, but don't stress out if you get a little in there. Because keeping with that tight line. Again, I'm just following it around. Mixing those colors. Which when you get this blend right, you should have beautifully burnished, shiny berries. Shiny berries. You know, like the kind you see and you're like, ooh, I want to eat those right off the page. Shiny berries. Gretel's still sleeping. I never got into her today. She's being a brat. I brushed her. She's all purring and making biscuits, and now she's just done. Maybe I burned her out with the brushing. She got too excited. Overstimulated her into a nap. That's good for her. I bring that red up on that edge just a little. Okay. So as you can see, That's kind of where you should be at right now, but if you've jumped ahead of me, that's okay too. Because I'm slow, and I'm intentionally slow. So now I'm going to grab my 927 over where I put some of that salmon. I'm going to work that 927. I'm still leaving that area in the center a little bit on the white side. Don't worry, you'll have a nice blend here if you've got it right, and it won't be white. I know you're quick to grab that gel pen and fill in that white highlight, but that's not what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to go around this edge again, working that color that I've already laid just around my edges. So I'm working that 927 over what I already laid in, that 1003, the 1001, the 122. Although this is not perfect and it's far from perfect, I'm still blending those colors. So as you see, they start to kind of meld together in a way. You can still see that speck of white there, and we'll get there. But I like to use the small circular motion when I'm blending my colors. So you can really kind of see how it's coming together now. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab my 923 in just a second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to pause for a second, but I'm going to carry on here with this strawberry from where we left off. So I'm going to take my 122 and I'm going to come down here at the bottom and I'm going to go over everything. Now, you should be getting a nice medium layer at about this point. You should really feel your colors moving and mixing across the page. And again, this is really going to depend on what weight your paper is. So if you're using a lighter weight paper, you may not get as many layers. So just do the best you can with your color blending. If you're using a heavier weight paper, you may need to give yourself a few more layers. So as you can see here, I'm just adding this 122 in over almost every area. What I'm doing is it's brightening up some of those darker areas, but it's also moving that color around a little more. So I'm getting a nice even blend. And don't worry if you get it up into that white area or that lighter pale area, that's okay, because you will blend that in just a little bit better. And if you don't like that little highlight in the center, you can just fill it in. It's kind of an artist preference, I guess. I put it there because she had, the artist, Lana, had shading above and below this area. So I took it as a nice point of light. Like the light is hitting that spot on the berry directly. So I wanted to really kind of give that a nice little highlight in there. So all I'm doing here, again, if you could see what I'm doing, I tried to zoom in, but you can also zoom in better. I did post that little video. Somebody had made a really cool video showing how to zoom in and out while watching YouTube videos. So just turn your phone to landscape and then use this method to zoom in and out on the video. It should help you see better. I was really surprised how many people didn't know that. I know I've brought this up before in several of my videos, but I do run across people often. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And I think it's really helpful. So again, I'm just kind of moving this color how I like it. I'm going to bring it up here a little more. I'm not quite happy with the top portion yet. And this side of the berry, it's a face-on shot, so really your light, I don't want to use the word interpretive, but your light is going to have different angles depending on the shadows that are created from the hair, the hand position, and where exactly the light is above. So I'm just considering the light being in front and reflecting off the surfaces. Okay. So you can see I got a nice blend going with my different reds. Kind of a darker but lighter berry up top. Like I said, I made it darker around the areas where she had already applied some shading. And again, that's going to vary depending on how you want your berries to look. So again, I'm just repeating this over and over with a light touch, trying to get that balance that I want with these colors. And you can clearly see that the dark shaded area right here where we put those darker reds, and then up and around here where we have those darker reds. And I often find that people are afraid to mix their colors too much because they'll lose that underlayer or base layer that they put in there. And, you know, as you put dark colors down, then put light colors over, you're not going to lose that dark color. You got to just try it. And again, that's why I always print 2 copies too. Because if I'm not sure about something, I have 1 copy that I can test it out on and see if I like that look before I go all in. Especially if I'm going to get a really detailed piece going. I want to make sure that I have exactly the colors that I'm after. Because you can see how I put this 122, I ran it right over that white and that salmon pink we laid in there. And you can still see that white under it. Now, if you find you change your mind, you don't like that, you could take a scraper and scrape that top layer of red off, and it will expose that red or that white underneath. The white pencil can do amazing little things. I don't use it as a blender. I don't recommend it because it changes your color values and fades your colors out. But you can use it for other things, although there is exceptions to that rule. Okay, now I'm going to take my 1001. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of blending around those edges to try to smooth it where the red and that pale area meet. Now there are some shaded areas, and you want to keep those. So you're basically just kind of smoothing that color out. Again, just keeping with the edge there. Now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going around the outer edge of that red, and I'm pulling the color up towards that white area. Again, I'm using light touch and I'm using small circles to do this. So you can see how that's just barely giving a little tint. I'm going to put some around the top up here. There. Now I'm going to grab my 1003. And I'm going to bring this down just a little bit into that red. Again, I'm coming up over that salmon. Hopefully you could see what I'm doing. Now, this color is going to kind of give it a little bit of a yellow look, but that's okay. You're going you'll work that bright orangey effect out. But don't be afraid to give it that bright pop, because this is really going to gloss over your reds. And you should start to feel a little bit of your paper starting to become a little more burnished. You're just starting at this level to get that color really pushed into the paper. So if you start seeing a lot of wax dust, or I call it peeling, that means that you're probably either pushing too hard or you're starting to burnish your paper. Because as you can see, I'm not creating much dust at this point, but I will get there. And I'm just about there. But as you can see, this 1003, it really is going to bring those reds to life. Now, again, I'm not pushing really hard. I'm using a very light touch. I'm just kind of going over my red areas to really bring that red out. And this is a good color to do that. It blends well with the reds because of the color values. But it's not really changing my colors too much. And I'm not really going over the dark shaded areas with this color. Going over my red areas. And this is the same color that we put on those seeds. So if you go over them, that is okay. So again, I'm just kind of moving this color around a little bit. Once I get to what I like, and we're getting there slowly but surely, I am going to grab my white because I do want a little bit of white right here, just kind of in that center. I don't want too much. But you can really move your color. And like I said, you could fade out some of that if it gets too bright. And then I'm going to put just a little bit. You can see how I added just a little right in the center. And it will, you should be able to go right over your colors with this. And again, see how sharp my tip is? So you know I'm not pressing hard. But you will build up your layers. You just have to be patient. Very cool, huh? Okay, so now I'm going to take, I think, let's take 1030. And I'm going to kind of highlight around my seeds a little bit. Not all the way, just think shading the darker area. I'm just going to go around, kind of make them, the edge stand out a little bit. So you can kind of see where the seed is set into the berry. Now, which just reminds me, I did a picture not long ago, and the seeds were kind of up off the berry. And like I said, I like to follow whatever the artist has drawn. So somebody said something, and it still makes me laugh till this day. They commented on my picture. They said, now I know how to make my seeds outies instead of innies. And it was quite funny. But they were correct. The seeds on the berry were outie. They kind of stood up off the berry instead of set inward. So me being me and following what the artist did, although it looked very 3D and looked really cool, it was pretty funny. I had to laugh about that. I mean, if you can't laugh, I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes people get mad if somebody doesn't like their art or what they've created. And frankly, it's up to you. If you don't like it, that's fine. I just always say be respectful of other people. You don't have to be rude and hurt their feelings. If you don't like something, you don't need to comment. Just move along. But you do got to kind of have a little bit of a thick skin, I think. Because everybody's opinions are different. I do think it's always best to either show restraint or show kindness if you're trying to be a critic, because it's so easy you could offend somebody or hurt their feelings. And you don't know that person in real life. You're just looking at a screen on a computer. So, all right. Now you could take some of this 1030 and right along the base of your berry here, you can kind of blend that color in to give it just a little bit of darker where you want it. It's a great way to darken up an area, especially when you're working with your reds. So there you go. And I'm trying to keep this little bit of shaded area here where she had previously shaded this in with some grayscale. So I want to keep that a little bit. I think I want to put a little more dark up around here. I'm going to grab my 924. And I think I'm going to work a little bit of this 924 up a little higher here. I want a little more red to my berry. So I am just about at that point where my paper is getting burnished, because I can see I'm getting a little bit of dust now, or people like to call it wax bloom. And now Prismas will do that. You will get some wax bloom, and you will get pre and post wax bloom. So if you're done with your picture and you've left it sit there and you start to see a little foggy color, that's what's called the wax bloom. And it's easily remedied to get that wax bloom off your page. Simply take a soft cloth and wipe it over your picture like this. It'll remove that buildup of wax bloom. Don't push hard because you can risk blending your colors. I recommend doing it very softly, or you can use a fixative after you do your art. And if you're very careful when you apply your fixative or stabilizer, whatever you want to call it, your colors will stay vibrant and rich, and you won't get so much of that wax blooming, like the after effect. Okay, so with this being almost to the burnished effect, I'm going to take my yellow Posca now, and I'm going to dot my seeds. So what I'm doing is where those little seeds are that we filled in with that 1003, I'm going to go ahead and add some of this yellow Posca to make them a little more vibrant against that red. And I recommend for this kind of work a fine point or an extra fine point. I'm using a 1. So this is a fine point Posca. And any gel pen or acrylic paint pen will work. Or if you prefer, just to use your pencils. And a little trick if you're just using your colored pencils, you may want to fill your seeds in with white first, and then go ahead and put your that 1003 over your white, and do a couple layers that way and kind of build them up. And that way you won't have such a hard time showing those through, or losing your seeds when you apply all your red background color. So you can see what I did here. I just followed the artist pattern, and I put those little seeds in the picture. So hopefully you can see this very good. Let me adjust here a little bit. See if I can adjust my light. I know I've got really good lighting. Sometimes I swear it's just me. Let me move my lamp. It's always comedy hour with me, I swear. I try to do something, something breaks or falls apart, or Gretel comes up here, starts freaking out. Oh, of course, now my lamp's gonna go the other way. Is that good? Bad? Worse? Maybe I need a new lamp. This is one of those really good LED lamps. Whatever. I give up. Okay, now I'm gonna take my 1009, or oops, look what I just did. See? My 1099. Now I'm gonna leave this alone. I'm not gonna try to erase it. Got a little trick for that. We'll do that later. Now I'm gonna use this 1099. Remember, we put a little of the 1030 around our seeds. So I'm gonna chase that with this 1099. Just shading certain portions of those seeds, not all the way around it, just where you think it should be the darker area. So what this is going to do is kind of make that, shape that seed, and it's also going to provide a little subtle, I guess, make them stand out a little bit more, make them look a little more inset into the berry. I mean, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I just like to. I like to see if I can get those seeds to work in there a little more. Okay. And this is the tedious part. Patience, grasshopper, patience. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around on you. I don't really follow a pattern. I just kind of do what comes to me. Okay, we're getting there. We'll move on to the upper leaf and then the berry behind this. There's a little top portion of a berry right here, which is kind of, it's hidden a little bit. Okay, so now you can kind of see more shape of those seeds. And you can always use your 1099 to put a little more of that shaded area in there over your red. It's a good color to go with your red for shading. You can always come down here. See how that worked really good over that red? If you're ever so gentle, it just makes it look darker, right? Okay. Now I am going to take my 122. Any of these areas that I think are not burnished, I can use my 122 to really push that color into the paper. Because I'm not going to really lose the brightness. It should work very well at this point. And giving me exactly what I'm after as far as the color on my berry. I'm just trying to follow that outline here. But again, depending on how thick or heavy of a grain of paper you're using. And if you are using a toned paper, you might find a little different tone with these colors than you're seeing against the white backdrop. And that's pretty normal when you're using a toned paper. It really makes, gives a very different look. So tone papers are fun to work with. I like to work with colors. Sometimes I'll use a colored paper, depending on the picture I'm doing, like a pastel. I got that beautiful paper, if you saw in my video of Blick, in the end, those bright orange and yellow papers. I'm saving those. Those are really nice, nice texture paper. And that orange one, I'm thinking Halloween. something Halloweenish or fall. A good picture for fall. And that would make a great tone paper to do that on. One of them might be a little too bright for me, but I have to work that out. Okay, I'm going to take my 927 and I'm going to kind of just blend these edges a little bit. And yet you can still see all the different colors I used, even though I've got a really good blend here. I'm just using my 927 to smooth those edges of those colors. And you can see I'm getting a little dust now, so my page is about at its maximum for what it's going to take for color. But I am able to move that color around a lot. And that's the beauty of the Prismas. People complain about that wax bloom. I don't so much complain about the wax dust and bloom as I don't like it post picture. When I see it after my picture is done, it kind of comes on suddenly and I'm like, ah, stop. Okay. Now, really quickly, let's do this green leaf. So the colors I pulled, 109, 1089, 1005, 912, and 989. So let's start with my, let's start with 1089. I may come back and do a little more touches on this up top part here. Add some unique touch there. So I'm going to put this habit of working on tone paper is using my 1089 first instead of white. Kind of giving that base color in there in this leaf. It's a great color to use. And I can't tell if that's a leaf. I think that's a leaf, part of the leaf right here. And I think this is part of the background leaf. Yes, it is. Now I can see it. Okay. Because we got this little portion of that berry right there. So it's kind of tricky. Okay, now I'm going to take my 1089. And I'm just putting a little bit of color in here at the bottom. Kind of following what Lana already laid in for the shaded areas. And I'm using my 1089 for that. And right around the berry itself. Again, leaves can be tricky, but don't let them overwhelm you. They can be any combination of colors. And they do come together. So I think people get nervous when they do botanicals. They're like, oh, that looks terrible. Well, it probably doesn't. Sometimes I need to take a break and then come back and take a look and see what I've actually done. And it always looks better when I take a break and come back. Because then I can see where I need to do something different or make a change before I burnish that color too much. Okay, now I'm going to take my 912, which is your apple green. And I'm going to come in here with my apple green and go over that 109 that I put in there. You can see I'm going right over the 1089 as well. And don't worry, you're going to go back in with your 1089. So don't panic. But you can see kind of the little bit of strokes I put in there with the 109. They're still there and they still show. So I'm just adding some pops in here. I'm going to do the same on all the leaves. Okay. Woohoo! I'm going to take my 109 again. And you kind of see better what I'm doing here. Nothing too crazy. I'm just kind of following the design of the leaf. Around that berry. Keeping the separation from the fruit and the leaf. And then this part right here is what was throwing me. You know, this part that I'm doing right now, it might have been part of the berry underneath, but I turned it into a leaf. Whatever. It's hard to tell. So if you did what I did, yeah, it's too hard to tell. Okay. And this little guy right here. Don't worry if you get a little in the hair. Try to be careful because we're going to make the hair brown with some gold highlights. I think that's going to be really pretty. We're going to use your metallic gold in this hair. Okay, now take your 989. And when you go over this with your 989, your 1089 underneath should start to really show. You'll see where you put that in to begin with as you move your color around. That's what Prismas are just great for that. Even when you're blending, you can still see what you've done underneath. That's why I like, again, my base colors. Okay, now take your 1089 again. And where you previously put that little bit of highlight with your 1089, you can come back in and put a little bit more to brighten that those spots up. Okay. And your final is your 109 again. And this is where I do the detail. Kind of see the leaf separation this way. And right here, go around that berry a little bit. And we've had quite a storm roll through here the last couple days, and it's supposed to pick up here again tonight. High winds, lots of rain, flooding, typical Western Washington or Pacific Northwest weather. A little cooler this time of year than normal. We are still in the 50s, which, burr. All right. So there's for your leaves. Now take your lime green, your 1005, and with your lime green, so at the base of your leaf where your leaf meets your berry, move a little bit of that lime green over the lighter portion of the top of that berry. It's going to kind of yellow it out. Give it kind of a yellowish green look. But it's going to bring that little bit together there. Don't go too far down. What you're doing is you're just going to kind of blend that edge. And that's where you're going to start to think, oh, wow, they used yellow. No, we used this lime green. And that lime green with the previous colors and your red, it's going to give it kind of that sun-kissed, in between ripe and semi-ripe look. Just like that. Very good deal. Very fun, very easy way to do some berries. Now, you have another berry over here, a berry and a half. We got lots of berries down here to do. But we're going to do this little piece here, and then we're going to move into some of the hair. So let's start with our blah, 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 light coat of 122. And I want you to put a full light coat of 122. Pay attention to where your seeds are. I'm only seeing 2. Because this berry is mostly hidden, I do see a little portion down here of leaf. I'm going to use my dark green to fill that in. There. Little bit I missed there. Right at the berry. I thought it was part of the berry, but it's actually part of the leaf. And you can always go back and add like touches like I'm doing right now later. But now you see why I worked from the left to right, because I'm right-handed. So I don't want to work right to left. I'll be smearing my colored pencil. And nothing's worse than that, right? Okay, I'm going to take my 924. Since this is going to be a deeper area of shading, this little bit should be pretty quick because it's basically a very shaded berry. So you should see a little bit more on the darker side of your reds. Okay, now I'm going to take my 923 and I'm just going over that 924. This is where sometimes it's really easy to get your good blends going because you have such a small little area to cover. But it's really going to contrast with the berry below it. See how the two different red tones? And that's because think of these leaves as blocking the light to that berry. And over on this side, you do got some more exposure up top here. So you can have a little bit of a lighter red area up top. Okay, I'm going to grab my 1030 and I'm going to use that right here in between these leaves just to give it a little bit darker color. Just right around the leaves and right around the berry there. And if you prefer, you can use your 1099, which is that brownish gray color. Okay, now I'm going to take my I'm going to take my salmon, my 1001, and I'm going to go around those seeds. Just a little bit, because it's kind of exposed right there. And take my 1003. And kind of blend those reds a little bit with the 1003. And that's it for that, except for, don't forget, take your yellow Posca, put your little seeds in there, and then add your 1099, which we'll do just here in a sec. I'm going to put another little seed in here. Right there. Looks like it needed a couple little more. Okay, now my 1099. Right here. And add just a little bit. And I can go around my Posca with that. There. I know I get quiet when I'm concentrating. Gretel's asleep. I think she's depressed from the weather. There. Definite contrast between the two reds, right? So if you want these darker, you can always be darker. You can always come back in with your 924 and darken that up if you want it darker. I can still see a little bit of white in my paper here. I'll have to work on that off camera. But that's all about burnishing your page. So again, however you want your berries to look, brighter, darker, adjust your reds accordingly. And try different reds. Try different combinations of reds and oranges and yellows. And don't forget, your salmon is a great color to use, your 1003. But you can clearly see the definition between the top and the bottom, and where that shading was that she put in that line here with that darker red I used. But just keep working it and your colors will come together. I like to tell people never give up, because it can be, the Prismacolors, you can move those colors around. So don't give up so quickly. Yep, it needs a little red up here, for sure. A little too much yellow there, I think. Looking pretty snappy to me. I kind of miss Gretel being asleep. She usually got some comedy going on, but there's no real comedy right now. Okay, I am going to set these fancy colors down, but write them down. Here's your color list again, because we're going to go over to the hair. This is the fun part. These were colors that were potentially used or used in my picture, and I'm pretty sure I tried very good to call them out as I used them. So 924, 925, 122, 1001, white, 923, 1003, 1030, 1099, 922, and we did not use 918 and 118, but those are optional colors that you can use to create this. So I may use some over here. We just have to wait and see once I get the hair laid in how much light this side of the berry is going to get. So if this is going to be a more orange, more sun affected berry, I may put some of that orange, the 118 or 918, into these two. And we will definitely be using them down here in the berries in the cake. Okay, so, excuse me. At least with the rain, all that cottonwood flying in the air will be dead to the ground. I'm going to briefly pause. You won't even know it. Maybe you will. But then I'm going to come back and I'm going to have the colors ready and a color list. And we're going to start with the hair. Yay. Let's get the hair done. I'm so excited. Grab your gold metallic. You're going to need it. Be right back. Okay. So let's get started on this hair. I thought I would start it, and then there's probably going to be a part 2 to finish the hair. There's going to be multiple parts to this color along. So here is your color list. We'll go over it real quick. Potential colors, always. I grab my ideas, and then as we go along, we'll adjust it. Okay, 950. Black. 950 is your gold if you're not familiar. Black. 948. 914, 938, which is your white, 947, 943, 945, 1082, 1084, 140, and 1092. So these are the hair colors. So if you want to take a screenshot and zoom in, you can write those down. And move this off to my side here. And we are going to start with, we're going to start with 140. Now, with my 140, all I'm going to do is, in this picture that Lana made, you can see there's a nice scalp part right here. I'm going to put a light little coat following that scalp line. And I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, it should be flesh tone or it should be white. Well, just bear with me. So all I'm doing is following the line of that scalp. Really lightly, not pressing hard at all. And then right where the hair meets the skin, just going to put a little bit in between these hairlines here. These parts. Don't worry, it's not going to affect the skin color. What I'm doing is clearly defining where the skin and the hair are going to peek through a little bit on her forehead here and on the scalp. So can you see what I've done there? I've just filled in these little cracks with a really light coat of this 140. I know it seems like an odd color, but I'm doing brown hair. So this will blend very well. And if you're nervous, you can use light peach if it makes you feel better. Okay, so that's all I did with this color. It's just a quick little bit in there just to see where my part is. That's it. I just want to keep that there so I don't lose it. Now, I'm going to start by putting in this 1084 ginger root. Now, I know it seems like an odd color, but it's like a peachy kind of yellowy brownish color. Now, at the root line, I'm using fine strokes. So let me grab a little piece of paper here. Grab my color paper. I don't know if you can see this. So basically what I'm doing is this, in short little strokes. And right at the root line, I'm doing a little small circles. So I'm just very gently, ever so lightly, I'm just putting in these short little strokes. Now, it does help if you have a sharp tip. Mine is kind of in between sharp and not sharp. See? If you can see that. That's all I'm doing here. And I'm working short strokes and very lightly. I'm not at all pushing hard. What this is kind of a base. And the only thing I'm doing is where the darkest hairlines are, I'm kind of going over that. So as I'm building up my layers here, you can see as I'm going into the whiter portion, I don't want to get too heavy around that part line. I want to be very careful there because you can make it look really dark and really muddy. Okay, now I'm going to do the other side the same way. I'm starting at the part line and I'm following the hair, the flow of the hair. So if it's got a curve, follow a curved pattern. Don't do a straight line, go with a curved line. You're going to get a better effect that way when you're laying your colors in. And Lana has been more than gracious by providing a flow line for you with the way she's put her darker lines in to show the hair. Now, from the strawberry up, you see there's a darker bit here and then there's a light in between. So we're going to do the same from the strawberry up towards the white part. We're just going to, some quick little lines. And you can see I'm kind of doing little circles at the edge there. I'm not going through that center line area unless Lana has laid in a long hair through it. Again, do what you like, but I like to follow the artist picture. I don't like to change what they've done. Okay, now I'm going to do this the same way. I'm following the hair all the way down. And I'm just laying this base color in. She's got some small dashes here, so I'm going to, that might keep you in so you can view what I'm doing. So I'm doing really short lines and I'm kind of going around the edge of that berry there. And you notice I'm following the hairline, the flow of hair. I'm not doing anything special, just some quick dashes. Keeping with, again, what the artist has already put in there for us, which makes this so much easier to do because the artist has taken the guesswork out of that for you. And then right around the ear here, she's got some fine little hairs going over her ear. You can go over those if you want. And I'm going to do this first portion of the bangs right here. Notice I'm not going over that white bit. And there's a reason for that. I'm not going to leave it white, but... And right now you're like, oh my gosh, it looks blonde. Yeah, it does. But we're not doing blonde hair. We're doing brown. And put a little more up here. Little more. Drag it out just a little bit more. I'm just following the longer hairs that she has here. That's all I'm doing. And you can see how I'm following the flow of the hair. So if the hair's curving up, I'm curving up. If it's curving down, I'm curving down. And again, I'm just using straight lines. And I am doing a little small circles when I get up to something. So if it's touching, I'm kind of pushing that color towards the edge there. And again, I'm just following the curvature of the hair. Go right in between that berry there. Right along her face. And again, around the cheek. And she's got a little bit going over the ear there. Just a little bit. Okay, that's good for now. Oh, I missed this little bit right here, right? Let's do these little bits of bangs. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I got out of camera. We're going to do these little bits right here. See, I got to put myself in check sometimes. I get out of camera view. That's what happens when you zoom in so close. I don't always pay attention. Typical me. I can't do a video without making something boogery. But that's all right. And again, I'm just following. She's got some hairs going through, so I'm going to follow those through. Okay, for now, that is good with this color for now. For now, set it aside. Now I think I will take my boop boopy doo. Let's take your 943. Now, go back up top to your part line. And see how sharp my tip is again? Can you see that? Pretty sharp. So you know I'm not pushing hard. And I want you to go, don't do it in the part line, just below it. So I want you to make really fine hairs. Short hairs. Follow what Lana already has there. So you're going to follow those dark lines. And you don't need to push hard. Trust me, your color will come through. Everybody does hair different. This is my method. You're not trying to fill in the whole page with color. Keep that in mind. You're not trying to put 943 in every inch of white space. Okay. Now I'm going to work from the berry, because the darker hair and the darker shading, I'm going to work from that berry towards that white line. And again, I'm just following the hair flow that Lana has laid in per her drawing. So if the hairs are longer, do a longer line. And it doesn't have to be perfect or exact. Get around this little bit of fruit there. So I am actually doing like some little bits of circles, some straight lines. And now I'm going to go right in here along that leaf. And the reason you want to work lightly is because you're building layers. And I know it doesn't seem like it because you're not really blending like normal, but your colors will blend, I promise. And the reason you want to start at your edges, because when you put your pencil down, that's going to create a darker mark. So from the darker lines out, if that makes sense to you guys. So the hair coming out of the scalp would be a little bit darker than what's farther down the line, because sun and environmental factors, hair products, whatever. So again, I'm just right up against that berry. Some shorter strokes and some longer strokes. And you should be able to see some color poking through. So I'm not going to do both sides with this right now. I'm just going to kind of focus on one area for the moment. And those are those little hairs that are going around her ear. Again, you're not trying to fill in every little white space. Because the number of colors and layers you're going to put in, it's going to get filled in. Okay, now back to the top where your scalp is. And from that scalp line or that part line, work your colors outward. Short and long strokes and light pressure. I know it takes a while to do this, but Bonnie Snowden, she was doing a horse, little video I was watching of hers. She did this amazing horse in this chestnut brown. And that's where I kind of got my inspiration for this hair color. But, of course, we're not doing a horse, and I'm not using the same colors she did, but her colors were beautiful on that horse. She picked phenomenal. I mean, that's expert level right there. Her color choice, her palette. Yes. So again, I'm working that part line, following the flow of the hair. But it just goes to show you that every artist has their niche. And some artists are really good at creating something from nothing, like Bonnie. I mean, she took a blank canvas and created this beautiful horse. I could never do that. My horse would look like Gumby. Could you imagine? I should do a drawing for you guys one day so you could see how terrible I am at drawing. But what I'm not bad at is putting color to other people's arts. Now, I can draw a little bit. I really can, but I'm not very good. And I've taken classes and I'm still not very good. So, I know what I'm good at, and it's this. I enjoy coloring other people's art. If someone draws me a black and white picture and tells me to put some color to it, I can do it. What I can't do is get those images just right. What I'm seeing in my head, I cannot get it on the paper. So, I don't know. My sister can draw. My dad can draw. I cannot draw. Just terrible at it. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this so you can see. I'm going to come over here to that berry side. And I'm going to work this color from that angle now. Towards the center. So towards that white portion right here. Which is still kind of white. But don't worry, it won't stay too white for too long. So I'm following that top portion there. Do a little more on this side here. And I'm doing a combination of short lines, long lines. Again, I'm following the hair structure that Lana has laid in. It should make it a little bit easier for you, especially if you're like me and you can't draw. The good news is it's already drawn for you. But now you see why, like, I watch certain people, even though I do this, I still watch other people's videos because I learn stuff from other people all the time. I am not some guru when it comes to this. I like to learn new things, and people are always surprising me. Who was it? There's somebody, I forget her name, so I apologize straight up right now. There's a girl, or a lady, I should say, who did this picture, one of Joanna Basford's pictures. And she took, like, newspaper clippings and applied it to her colored page. And it really turned that page into something else than just colored pencil art. She took it to next level. Almost like a scrapbooking page, but on steroids. It was very cool. I told her it was very cool. It's very creative. So very outward thinking. And I have not seen anybody actually take the time to do something like that with their pictures. I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen people apply colored pencil art to photos, scratch art, but I've not seen somebody actually color the picture and then use a type of applique process to really give it some extra pop. And it was very cool. It came out very good. I just thought it was neat. So there's so many ways to fix a picture, even if you screw up. She didn't screw up, but I'm just saying, that's just another thing. Just goes to show you never give up on your pictures. I've made some that I look at them and I'm like, wow, I did that. Some of my earlier stuff that I did where I thought I was really good, I laugh at now. I'm like, I can't believe I thought I was really good then. I mean, maybe I'm just kidding myself and I stink at doing this. Who knows? But I think everybody creates differently and they find their niche or they find their way of laying their colors in. So for me, there's no right or wrong way. Okay, you notice I didn't go down the braids or the ponytails off of either side yet, but I will. Hold on just a second here. I can hear the wind howling outside, so I got to turn my TV back on. Okay, so the next color I'm going to grab here is 1082. Now be careful because your chocolate brown is pretty dark. So I'm going to come up here at the top with my chocolate brown, and I'm going to do some strokes, but I'm going to do less. So I'm not going to put as many strokes of the chocolate brown in right now as I did the 943. I'm doing a combination of short and long, but I'm keeping a variegated line of color. I hope that made sense. I don't want my colors to become solid. Not yet. Because as you're laying these in, you'll still be able to see the fine hairs. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just doing some quick little And you can see that I'm not getting really close together strokes. They're near each other, but they're not like on top each other. I'm gonna go around this outside. So you can see some of these fine hairs that are going through that white area. And that's kind of my goal here, keeping with the strokes of what she has. Get it down at the bottom here. Because there's so many colors, it does come together beautifully though. It does in my mind. I'm just going around this leaf. And I'm keeping with what she has and following the curvature of the hair. I'm going to come around here with this berry, kind of getting in close because I want to get right on that line. So where the berry meets the hair, I'm going to just outline it here. I'm going to put some little dashes, not a whole lot, because I'm not trying to cover up, or again, I'm not trying to fill in every little white space. Okay, pretty nifty. I'm just going to do a little bit more of this chocolate. I'm actually going to follow this hairline. So following the outline of this with this chocolate. Quick little strokes. And you should be able to see the two different colors now. So you're going to see some of your chocolate brown. You're going to see some of that 943, that reddish brown. Getting around that leaf again here. Sorry, I get quiet when I concentrate. Okay. Get this little bit around her face. And then down around the ear a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to come up here to the bangs. I know it's probably hard to see because I got to turn my page funny angles. But I think we all have a way of working our pictures, right? And I'm right-handed, so I have to be at a certain angle. So again, I'm working toward the inner portion where the light would be hitting. Okay. I don't know what I'm watching. Something new on Netflix. Again, it's just noise. I hear the wind outside, so it's a distraction. Hopefully my lights don't go out again. They went out earlier. We had some pretty good winds going. Normally we get these windstorms, but usually in the fall. Okay, so now you can see you've got two different colors coming together, but you can kind of see the flow of the hair is still there. The line break of the hair, the individual hairs, you can, even though you're not doing individual hairs, your color's going to blend. It's going to look more like individual hair as you're building your layers. And you still have that part line there. So anywhere you think you want to put a little more of that chocolate, go ahead. And I'm going to do a little bit more right around here. I'm going to follow some around that. These leaves right here are tricky. And you can always come back with your dark green and after you've done your hair and put some more in there if you need to. Okay, so now I'm going to grab, let's grab our 945. So 945, and I'm going to work it this way this time. And again, light strokes. And again, I'm not trying to go over top my strokes. I'm just adding strokes, light strokes. So we know there's color already there. So I'm putting more color over top of color. And this one, you don't want to add too much because this is a really deep, rich color. So try not to overlap too much. And get up close to that leaf. And then from this darker area here, and then in between again. And I'm doing short strokes here. If that, I didn't make that clear on the first time around with the chocolate. Around the ear. Okay. And back to the part. I hear my wind chimes outside going. You can always tell when it's getting really windy because they'll really start howling out there. One of my wind chimes actually blew away. I never found it. The wind just snapped it off and took it away. Because Mother Nature didn't like that one. I don't know whatever happened to it. It was cute too. It had little sun catchers on it. Never did find it. It's probably somewhere in the wetland. Who knows? Neighbor probably has it down the road. Those winds were wicked. We were out power for a few days. That was a bad windstorm. Lost my garbage can lid and everything. It flew down the street. Never found it. That was crazy. I wonder how many other people lost their garbage can lids that storm. I didn't even hear it blow off. It just, way it went. I'm like, ooh, what happened to my lid? That stunk. And of course, when you go to buy a new lid for your garbage can, they don't sell just the lid. You have to buy a whole new can. I was like, well, that's silly. So they ended up with another garbage can that I didn't need just to get the lid. I was like, and then of course, not long after I did that, because the garbage service at the time, they let you use your own can. They didn't really provide it, which was great. So, what was it? Within like 2 weeks of me buying a brand new garbage can, then Waste Management took over our area. I don't want to say anything else. Just, we have new garbage service and Yeah, well, that is what it is. Not like I have a say in what our city chooses. Okay, so now you can see how your browns are coming together there. Now I'm going to take and throw you for a loop and grab, do I want 1092 yet? No, I think I'm going to grab my 1084. So remember where these white portions are that we left? So I'm not going to fill it in, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from both sides, and I'm going to add some lines going in both directions into that white area. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of grabbing some of those browns, and I'm lightly going over them, but as I'm going over them, it's going to pull some of that brown into those white areas. And I'm just doing some random strokes, just adding some of these little bits of light color. Don't forget to do all your little areas. And again, I haven't done the ponytail portion yet, but I will get there. A little bit here. And then right here, you can kind of see where it's the skin or forehead might be exposed. So I'm going to work from this angle first. And again, I'm not overlapping. I'm spreading out my strokes. But I am kind of going over what was there. And what it's doing is it's layering up. So this color kind of goes over your dark colors, and then you can put more dark colors over that, and you'll really see what I mean by doing it this way. So the dark layers that you've already laid in, and the hairs, the fine lines, they're still going to be there. Okay, now I'm going to work from the other direction in towards those white portions. And again, I'm not trying to fill in every white space. It will eventually get filled in. But as you're doing it, you'll still have those lighter portions in the hair, especially where those highlights are. Now I'm going to do it the same here on this edge. From the dark edge into the lighter edge. And I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just kind of random strokes. I know you wouldn't think straight lines work, but they do. It's all about technique. Now, from the top in, again, following the path of the hair. So I'm going this way, making curves. So in this motion, because I'm following this hair. And then as it comes down, it goes the other way. Okay, now I'm going to go this way from the outer part. I'm going into the center. I'm going to add a little more here. I'm going to go from this top part down a little bit. Add some strokes. I just want to do a little more. See how it's starting to really show now? You can really start to see. It works, I promise. Now I'm going to take my, do I want that one? Let's do 948. This is really dark, so be very careful. I'm going to take my 948. My 948 is really sharp. I'm not going to add a whole lot of 948. What I am doing is putting some fine lines of this deep, dark brown in there. You're really going to see that deep, deep, dark color. So don't panic, because we even have black to throw in here. Yeah, right? So you keep right here where the scalp is. Don't overlap your colors with this dark color. You'll get too much dark. And if you do that, you could always end up just doing black hair. So now I'm going to go from the other side up. And I'm not adding a lot of this in. I don't want it too black. My goal is to have a nice chestnut brown or a reddish brown. Because remember I told you, I'm going to put some gold highlights in her hair and give her hair a little shimmer. I want that gold to show. I don't want this dark to overtake it. Okay. Again, I'm just working the picture, working the flow of the hair. And she's got her bangs that come down in a swooping motion here, so it's a great way to define those lines, is to put that dark in between the breaks. See how cool is that? I'm going to get around this leaf a little bit here. And where that berry is. This got more of a shaded area, so it could be a little darker. Starting to really come together. Now, let's take our eggshell, which is our 140. It's that lighter color. And let's go over our light area. Working both directions like before. Just give some quick random strokes. So everywhere you have a really light area, put some of that 140 in there. Right here. And see, I still have her little part line there. Pretty nifty, huh? All right, now grab your gold. We're not done yet, but I want you to grab your gold. Grab your 950. Start at your scalp, at your part line there, and take that gold and drag your gold out. Drag your gold over into your light area. That gold, believe it or not, I know you don't think it's going to do anything, but it is a little bit of a darker color. It is going to add shimmer, just ever so slight shimmer. You're not trying to make it look metallic, but it's going to give it just these subtle hints of shimmer when the light hits it just perfect. So you can see how I'm not filling in that light area. I'm just dragging this gold into it. And we will do another layer of this gold. So I want you to go over every area. Just give some quick strokes, not a lot. And they can be so random. Just keep with the flow of the hair. So because you're just adding highlights, you don't want to overdo it, because again, you'll start blending your colors. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to my 943. And you should really start seeing your layers coming together now. So my 943, coming out with my strokes. Again, I'm just working random strokes. I'm not trying to fill in every space, although you should start seeing less and less white space now. So when I said before, don't try to fill in every white space because it will get filled in on its own, this is what I meant. You don't have to do it because it will do it. Now I'm going to work from this top into that lighter area. Following the contours of the head. When we start to put more of the chocolate and the black in, you're really going to see this. And I know it takes a long time to do it this way, but it's really up to you. I like to build my layers, especially when I'm doing hair. I know it can be tedious, but you get this look that's really cool. And I think, again, a lot of artists have different ways of doing this technique. Some don't use long strokes at all. They have a completely different way of doing hair. But this is my way. And this is a really good way to also do fur. Okay, so now I think I'm going to go with boop-boopy-doo, my 1092, my nectar. And I'm going to grab my nectar and put some random Yep. The nectar is going to do more of your blending for you. It's that in-between color. So you should start seeing those white portions in the hair. So those bleed through spots of your paper are starting to disappear. But notice how you still have your light area versus your dark area. That's good. That's what you want. And again, I know I'm working a little fast here. And I'm going to come around here. Coming around the face. And those little bits of the hair around the ear. Let me turn this. I hope I'm staying in view for you guys. I get so focused sometimes I forget to check my camera. Sometimes you got to add just a little blending. But you can really see, I mean, if you look at your own hair in the mirror, it's not really one solid color. You've got lots of different colors that make up the color of your hair. And that's what makes this so cool. I think one of the hardest ones to do actually is blonde. because you can go too yellow or too brown so easily. A red hair can be tricky. And I've only done red hair a couple times where it's actually turned out the way I wanted it. So, like I said, nobody's perfect. Okay, now I'm going to take my 1082, my chocolate brown. Hopefully you guys can really see how the hair is coming together now. You could still see the individual strands, but you've got more color blend going on now. Now, here's where your layers get really good. So I'm going to take this chocolate brown. Since my hair, my focus is brown hair, I've got my red undertones, which I have dark brown hair and my hair has lots of red undertones. I'm following the hairline and I'm putting in these dark, beautiful dark streaks. Beautiful chocolate. And see, if you look close now at your picture, you should still be able to see those reds, the 943 and the 945 that you put in. You should still be able to see those lines, and that's because you put in those lighter colors, the 140s, and you did it over what you've already had there. So that really helps to kind of seal layers or lines, in my opinion. I don't even know the right word for it. Some of that fine hair work. So there's some dark right here. So I'm just adding a little more of the dark up top here. A little bit of a more of a blending technique instead of a straight line. I'm just kind of working that. What the artist has already put in there. Although you can still see my strands underneath, I'm just individualizing it. There you go. Okay, now I'm going to come back to this side here, get in next to that, can you see, to that berry. It's kind of tricky. Okay. Ooh, there goes that wind. I know you guys can't hear that, but sitting here listening to it, it's like, sometimes I get a really good one. It'll just howl. Okay. Again, I'm paying attention to some of these deeper areas. around the face, around the bangs, I guess. So you can really see. There. Check it out. What do you think so far? You like this method? I hope so. Okay, let's take our... let's take our black. Take our black. Be very careful with your black. Put little bits of black. So think baby hairs, like fine hairs. So where you're putting your black is like the deepest, darkest part of your hair. So your roots, your roots are always darker than the rest of your hair. So that's where you can focus adding more of the darker. Okay, and then right up against where the fruit meets, you can add just little bits here and there. Again, I'm just going around that berry here. Okay, I'm going to do a little right in here. Trying to make it so you guys can see what I'm doing. I know it's a little tricky, but I don't want to use too much of the black. Okay. Oops. Got a little heavy there. Oopsie. It's okay. I'll have to fix that. Like I said, sometimes it's really hard to get around certain things, but you can fix it. Okay. So I've added some black in there. Now I'm going to come back with my 945. And I'm putting in fine lines. I am drawing hairs in colored pencil. Again, I'm not filling in necessarily, but almost all my white area is going to be filled. So I'm just following the flow of the hair. So, sorry, again, I get quiet when I'm concentrating. So I'm just kind of doing some little bit of blending here where I got that too much of that black right there. I might have to fix that. Perfect. Around the ear. Okay. I'm going to go on this side. Can you see over here? just around that ear there. You should really start to feel those layers now. Your pencil's going to be a little more smoother on the going over on the paper versus what it would feel like on plain paper. I know we touched on that a little bit earlier when we were doing the berries. But it should feel a little slicker because your colors are building up. So believe it or not, even in this method, you're still moving that color around. Prismacolors are really good about ability to blend using very different techniques and methods. So when you're doing this, you should be able to start feeling the different textures. It should help you get used to, it's the word I'm looking for. You'll know easier when your paper's starting to be burnished just by feel. Okay. Cool beans. And I'm just still keeping with that beautiful line that she has created. And the flow of the hair. And you should still be able to see your fine lines of hair. But you should have a nice reddish brown hair, like an auburn color right now. Now take your gold again and start adding some gold highlights in there. So remember, your gold's a little bit darker. So you're adding those gold touches in now. So when you hold your page up into the light, you should see subtle bits of shimmer. I'm just getting this little bit right there around her ear. So you should start to feel how much pencil you have on your page now. This gold touch. You can still see that light bit in the center there. And that's what you want, because the light would be hitting kind of the top of her head. So you should still be able to see the fine hairlines. And if you need to go back in and add more of the chocolate brown because it's too reddish for you, go for it. I probably will add some more chocolate in. I'm still in my view here. But I want to get some of these gold shimmers in here, because it's such a fun way to work with metallics. And I think people often forget about the silver and gold metallic pencil. And they think, oh, I just create the metallic look. Well, creating a metallic look and using a metallic effect are two very different things. Because I don't know how many people know that metallic colored pencils actually have a metallic mineral in them that gives it that shimmer. So, how do you like that? So you should be able to see the hairs in your picture. I'm going to set these down for a second. My hand's crampy. I have to take a break. think we might pause actually for this. How do we do this here? Okay. And I go ahead and post this part 1. And we're not done with the hair though, so don't panic. We're not quite done with it. But I want to zoom in. Can I zoom in? Will it let me? There we go. Okay. Can you see that? So if my phone will hold still. We're not done with the hair yet. But you can see we still have that light part right here. And it looks lighter on camera than it really is. But I want to see if I can get that to reflect for you with that. See that gold shimmer in the hair? That's what you should be seeing in your drawing when you add that gold in there. So using metallics doesn't have to mean it needs to have a metal look. Those metallics can really add different effects to your images depending on what you're doing. So let me zoom out. Okay. So let me see if I can get you in a better view. I think I can zoom out a little more. Oh, there we go. So this is where we're at so far. So this, I'm going to post this, will be part 1. But you can go ahead and work on your little ponytails. But I'll show them in my next part video. And we'll work on this other strawberry. The reason I didn't do it is because I wanted to work, because I'm right-handed. So I wanted to work left to right instead of right to left, or I'll smear it. But we're not done with the hair. We will finalize the hair and we'll finish this berry and we'll do these 2 little ponytails. But I think this is going to be a fun piece to do together. And we have this lovely strawberry cake. Oh my gosh, such a cute picture. Plus, we're going to do some skin. And again, I chose to do this on white paper instead of a toned paper because I think most people have white paper at home. And you can choose a toned paper if you like. Just to keep in mind when using a toned paper, your dark colors are going to be darker and your light colors are going to be lighter. They're really going to stand out against that toned background a little bit more. So you may have to adjust your color accordingly if you're not used to working with toned papers. But if this gives you an idea of where this picture is going, I hope you stay with me for part 2, 3, 4, and however many parts it takes us to finish this together. All right, you guys, it is just after midnight here, so I hope you guys have a great night. Stay tuned for part 2, and we will continue on with the hair and the rest of these berries up top. Have a great night.